Hey guys, it's Thunder here, and welcome to another episode of the Need for Speed Most Wanted Mod Showcase, in which today's episode will be the last of the original rotation that I did when I was going through the wheel of cars. And the first up here today is the Mercedes-Benz CLK GTR Amg. Now, I apologize for not mentioning any names right away. I'll be showing that off in the leaderboard, so don't worry, you still will get your shoutouts. But CLK GTR has always been one of my favorite kind of my favorite Mercedes-Benz around. I just love the way the car looks. It was just such a unique car, and when it came to racing, it was incredibly dominant. The first season Mercedes entered this car, it was already winning races. That's how, and it won the championship in like '97. And then they had the CLK LM in '98, and I think that was just as dominant too. And then the whole CLR thing happened in '99, and well, you know the rest about that. But anyways, the CLK GTR, this is a Forza 3 conversion. This replaces the Cadillac CTS. Again, a bit of an odd choice, but hey. And no, I did actually change the paint. You can, of course, change the paint on this car. No vinyls, though, but you can at least put some body kit stuff, and, you know, so I can kind of get this looking like the racing car, so we're going to go with that. Of course, we can't really change the spoiler because, you know, and wheels, they can obviously be changed. Hoods don't do nothing, and I don't think roof scoops would even matter because there's already a roof scoop sitting on the top of this car as defaults. So we're just going to leave it simple, as always. And then, of course, that now means going over to the Petersburg test track, giving the car 4 laps to go around the track as fast as possible, get the fastest lap time that we possibly can out of it. I should also mention that this is the first time I'm recording this with Windows 10. I know some people are thinking, why did you make the update? Windows 7 was great. And Windows 7 is great, but for me, I think, you know, the time to try to go up to Windows 10 for free was coming to a really short close, and I was like, I might as well just see what it's all about and see if it's any good or whatnot. And you know, so far it's been working pretty well for me. I don't really have any complaints. And oh, I hear something. Now you may remember I originally had set to turn off the motion blur with Most Wanted, and it worked for a while. Then somehow just managed to revert itself back to and re-enabling the motion blur, even though in the registry settings it was still disabled. It looks like with Windows 10 here that it's now actually. It actually now re-notices that it's been turned off, so now there's no motion blur. I had someone complaining about that I should have turned it off, and I explained why exactly it was the case of why it was enabled, and now with it being disabled properly, it looks a lot clearer and a lot nicer in my honest opinion. And this is a pretty fast car too, 57.91 on opening lap. We're gonna have a pretty quick lap time on our hands. This car's got some pretty good speed to it, and handling is all right. It's not perfect, but it's, you know, grippy and responsive, and you know, so it ain't anything mind-blowing. But considering this replaces the CTS, this is a huge improvement. This car is worlds ahead of how much better it is compared to the CTS. So you're gonna pretty much. I'm expecting this will pretty much be a top 20 time, maybe being close to top 10 actually, to be perfectly honest. Well, it would be if I didn't do that. I keep forgetting I need to get rid of that at the first lap. But yeah, I haven't done a recording for a mod showcase in a while, and the only drawback I have with Windows 10, this was the same thing with Windows 8.1 because my computer originally came with that. My sound card, because I use like an equalizer setting to really get the sound that I would like the most, it tends to pick it up a bit in the recording, so it may sound a bit overly bassy and trebly if you consider it to be, and I apologize if that's the case to you, but to me, it didn't do that in Windows 7, but it does that in 8 and still does it in 10, so it may sound a little different, but so long as there's no complaints, I'm happy. I'm fine with it the way it is anyways. I'm sure you guys will be too. But of course the only way for me to verify is me listening back to it, turning off the equalizer just to see. And I will admit the lights, so the headlights on this are a little weird. You can you can just see that doesn't look quite right. Yeah, look at that, 53.65 for this for the CLK GTR AMG. This thing is just flying around the track. That's pretty much near top 10 time there. It's not quite top 10, but it gets pretty close. But you can there's just a lot of power for this car, and just good speed, and handling's pretty decent too. So this car is doing pretty much, I guess, exactly what I was kind of hoping it to do. I wanted it to be fast, and it's well, it's definitely fast, all right. If this was the first mod car I ever driven, it would have been second place. But of course, now that I've driven so many other mod cars, it doesn't quite get the top 10, but it gets close, and that's of course a good thing. So, but yeah, no, that was pretty good. Let's see if that last lap time was any better than our previous. Yes, it was. In fact, 53.40. That's only 0.3 off of the M3 GTR. So, really competitive cars, really nice. I quite enjoy it. It's also quite a nice looking mod too. Anyways, next up we have is the BMW M4 Coupe, the 2015 BMW M4, which is quite nice to see. Now this car is a little bit interesting because it's actually converted from the mobile game Need for Speed game called No Limits. So it's got all the it's got a whole bunch of body kits that you would see from No Limits, which, you know, gives it at least some customization. But then my favorite thing is if you go to Body 5, you get pretty much what is, well, essentially the most wanted M3 GTR livery, like modified on the M4. I don't quite know if it's exactly like this in the game, but I'm pretty sure it is. But, you know, it looks really good. And of course you can, well, okay, well, maybe not there. I know that I've seen this spoiler option. I'm guessing it's in the hood. Yep, it is in the hood. So you get like a little lip thing like that, which actually looks kind of nice. Then you can have like a smaller thing like that. You can just have, I guess, like a colored spoiler to the main color of the car. By the way, this replaces the Audi A3, so this isn't the original paint. The blue is not the original paint that I had on it. It's just, I actually will admit, I really like how many spoiler options there is. Like, that looks insane. That's like, that really is almighty. But that's really cool. There's a lot of different wing options for this car, and that's something I really like. You have a lot of different custom wing choices. So I'm not quite sure. Oh, I'm on game. I'm not quite sure what the wing the M4, the most wanted M4 uses in that game, but I'm gonna go with this one because it's pretty almighty, all right. And roof scoops obviously don't work, which of course you don't. You know, I don't really care for that. Anyways, now one thing I kind of can't really show off because of the body livery. This actually does have support for regular vinyls. You just have to be using one of the other body kit options. If you use this one, that'll just it won't appear because that overwrites the entire thing. And I'm wondering, is this one of those cars that if you try to paint it, it does make a difference? Nope, it pretty much is set to looking like this. All right, fair enough. I didn't mean to take so long with this one, but you know, there's quite a few more options to show with the M4. It's one of the first really customizable ones we've had in a little while. So, but yeah, this thing looks pretty damn ready to go, and I'm gonna probably enjoy driving this thing because I really like the M4. I know there's a lot of people who probably, you know, prefer the M3 and whatnot prior to, but the M4 to me was always just it's like just taking the M3 and just giving it, just injecting it with a pretty lethal dosage of power, and I just think it's one of the more interesting things. I never was a big fan of the E92 M3. I personally think the M4 was a better step in the right direction. Of course, I'm always going to be a sucker for the E46 more than anything, but, you know, that's just me. Now, looking at the speed of this car, this is nothing really to write home about, but it at least handles all right. So I'd say probably more likely than anything, I'm going to be maybe at the most expecting mid-table. Oh, dear. That's not particularly very good, but yeah, we'll see exactly just how well the M4 does. And of course, again, I gotta just try to get rid of that on the first lap because, you know, I've had. I mean, you saw it with the CLK GTR. I don't want it to happen again. So it does understeer a little bit more actually than I was originally thinking. But so I'm gonna have to. Just gonna have to kind of be careful. Really just hit these corners as good as I'm gonna be able to hit them at. So yeah, this may be a little bit lower than mid-table actually then, which is kind of disappointing then, because you know, I mean, look at this M4. You look at that the way this thing looks, and you think, yeah, that looks like it's gonna be one hell of a very quick car around here. But judging by how this is going so far, it really doesn't. It really just doesn't seem to be that way, which is just you know, really disappointing. It's understeering. It's the speed. It doesn't quite get up to a lot of crazy speed really quickly. It just kind of feels. It just doesn't. It's not. There just isn't real. There just isn't really a lot to it. And I'm really trying to push this thing too. So don't get me wrong. I would love to see this do a little bit better. But yeah, 102.25 ain't really something to write home about. I mean, you honestly, the way this is driving so far, you would have been better off just sticking with what this car replaces, the Audi A3. So, but yeah, it really bugs me because it's like, you know, this is a really crazy looking, exciting car, but it doesn't drive. It just doesn't drive like it. It really doesn't, and that's kind of just, and that just. You know, it disappoints me. I was really hoping for more out of this thing, but I just don't think this car has it. I mean, yeah, I mean, sure. Oh, Jesus. I mean, sure, it's not, you know, the absolute slowest car or nothing, but when you know your car is trouble when you can't get it below under a minute, so. But yeah, that's like, these times just really aren't anything to write home about. And like I said, I'm really trying to get as good as a lap time as I'm gonna get out of this car, but I just don't think it's gonna happen. And I'm just trying whatever I can to do so. Oh God, that is a killer right there. This car just, I mean, maybe if that weren't happen, if I were really just give it everything that I could, this could probably do 101 maybe, but yeah, I don't think it would. I don't. Sub 1 minute would be very difficult with this car. So it's just such a disappointment. This thing has. It's too much understeer, and it's not entirely that fast. For a car that's completely maxed to the brim with all the ultimate, and then you have the extra junkman parts as well. So, yeah, that's just quite a letdown. But you know, whatever. 102.25. What can you do? And finally, we now have one of my absolute favorite cars ever, the Ford GT40. This is the Mark II. And there's a bit of a thing with this car. This, of course, actually makes sense to replace the Ford GT. One of the things, though, to keep in mind, though, is you have to import the vinyls.bin file from the original 4GT files in the game's files to get vinyls on this car, because otherwise you won't have any vinyls. You know, which honestly just begs the question: why couldn't the modder just do that for you in case you were to forget? But you know, whatever. But regardless, I'm not really going to change, you know, too much with the way this car looks or anything, so. Oh, whoops, we don't want the challenge series. Alright, there we go. But you know, regardless, we're going to take this around Petersburg, and hopefully we'll just get something, you know, we'll hopefully be able to end this part on a more cheerful note after the disappointment that was the M4 Coupe. But I got a good feeling the GT40 might just be what we're looking for. And if that start was anything to go by, it looks like I may be exactly right. Oh, and that handling. That is some responsive handling. That is very grippy. There's a lot of grip in this car. That is very nice. And it's fast too. Oh, it's definitely fast. I think this may be, in fact, the best car of the lot. You can just see how much speed it can carry through corners and just how fast it can get up to speed. And yeah, I'm starting to notice, yeah, this game looks a lot better without all that motion blur. The motion blur is just too heavy in this game. I kind of wish they gave you an adjuster, because I like some motion blur, because it gives you the feeling of going fast and everything. But to have at least, if they had like a modifier where you could just modify the amount of motion blur you had, I'd be able to probably put it to something I would personally really like. And there we go. Look at that, 56.41 on the first lap. That's better than the CLK GTR's first lap, and that thing was fast, and that thing was already near top 10 levels of fast. So this thing pretty much is top 10 levels of fast. This thing just has tons of accelerating power, a good high top end, and has a lot of grip. I mean, it's an interesting grip because it takes a little bit to really kick in, but once you got it kicking in, you'll notice just how much speed you can carry going through corners with it. It's a really interesting handling characteristic for this car, and I really like it for that very reason. It's different, but in the sense that you really got to make sure you can nail it in order to do really good with it. So, but I really like that. And look at that, 54.24, not quite the 53.4 we were looking for, because I really have a feeling this car can beat that time. It's just I gotta really nail it down. The thing with the GT40, it's really grippy. You just gotta make sure to time it right, and just bear in mind it takes a little while to kick in, and it feels like it may want to slide out on you, but it doesn't. So, but anyways, I think though, if you really push with this thing, you'll probably get. This will probably be better than that. So, ooh, that was a little hairy, but nothing too terrible. All right. Anyways, I just feel like if I really give it everything I can probably get a good lap out of this. Ah, there we go. Look at that. That's a lot better. 52.45. That's a top 10 time right there. At least I'm pretty sure it is. It feels like a top 10 time. If not, then it's incredibly close. But yeah, this thing I really like the way this car drives. It's interesting just how it all works out with this car. Oh shit. Well, I'm not going to be able to beat that time now, but hey, 52.45 is still a time. It's still a pretty damn good time, because that really was like a flying lap. It certainly felt like. So, anyways. And yep, again, I really need to remind myself, give yourself the first lap to take that. In fact, I don't know, because the reason I wanted 4 laps is because it's meant to give you like 3 laps to try to get a really good time. Anyways, I don't really need to be checking since I know it isn't as good. But yeah, there you go. It's still better than the first lap at least. So yeah, after a disappointment with the M4, we get a car that's nearly 10 seconds faster around the track. So that's that really was a really huge step up, and a good way to end this part off. And of course, that means now coming over to the leaderboard, and the fastest today in 12th place is the Ford GT40 Mark II, which was requested by Tigrazia. I apologize if I didn't say your name right. I can't really speak your language, as your name would show. Doing a 52.45 second lap time, so it wasn't quite top 10, but it was very, very close. A little bit down, in 18th place is the Mercedes-Benz CLK GTR AMG, requested by the 13th racer, doing a time of 53.40 seconds. So it's a pretty solid car still. So 2 cars within the top 20. Unfortunately, though, you have to go all the way down to 85th place to find the BMW M4 Coupe, doing 1 minute 2.25. Maybe it would be a little bit higher if I was able to have a lap that didn't have a few little issues, but I think it wouldn't really make too drastic of a difference. It's really disappointing to see that they really didn't do much with the M4 Coupe. And it was RacerXNFS, by the way, who requested the M4 Coupe. So that finally completes the list of all the cars that I did in the original rotation when I found the ones I were doing in order, I've got over 30 more requests, however, and we'll probably still have more as time goes on. But there are plans in the future for the car mod series. See, as much as I enjoy doing Most Wanted, and here's some of the here's a spoiler to cars that you can expect in the future. As much as I enjoy doing Most Wanted, I've kind of always wanted to expand the series to kind of just so it's not always focusing on one car. And now, of course, Need for Speed's really easy to do that for. So, I mean, I just want to hear your guys' opinions. If you would like to see it for maybe, I don't know, something like maybe Need for Speed Carbon, maybe Need for Speed Underground 2, maybe Need for Speed High Stakes, maybe Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit, or maybe any other sort of game, racing game with a lot of car mods. If there's anything you want to see and give me a game, please feel free to let me know. I'll probably also be leaving a comment where you can write it down too. But anyways, with that being said, stay tuned for the next episode. And as always, thank you guys for watching and take care. Make sure to follow me on Twitter to get the most updates and donate to my Patreon if you want, not required. But anyways, thank you guys for watching and take care.